We now move on to our proposed 2018-19 budget. And I know, Marios, you just get to stand there for the rest of the night, I think. Dr. Swift.
Thank you, Madam President and trustees. As I shared earlier, we'll make this brief because I'm delighted with Mr. Dimitri's presentation, and I want the board to be able to enjoy that. I'm proud of the support of our community. It's through the local support that we've been able to survive a dramatic downturn that has extended more than a decade now of the systematic defunding of public schools in Michigan. Ms. Helton is bringing up a piece that I often refer to, and I felt like tonight was the night to just have it enlarged on the screen. This year, in the 2018 Quality Counts, Michigan finishes 34th among the 50 states in achievement overall. I do want to point out there, she's highlighted, thank you for that, the part that has to do with finances in student achievement. You can see in finances, Michigan ranks 23rd and receives a C. On the Achievement Index, we finished in Michigan at 43rd with a grade of D. This is a direct result of the systematic underfunding and defunding of public education in the state of Michigan. So I want to be very cautious this evening because across the state, as we move toward the end of June, we hear delight in some districts. Those are generally districts that are not subject to the 2X formula that we are in Ann Arbor. And I fear that when folks are delighted that we are getting a little bit of an increase this year, they are missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, as you will see from Mr. Dimitri, is that our state has the ability to fix this problem. The money is there. And our legislature is choosing to spend our K-12 money in other places. So I want to be very clear as we introduce this 2018-19 budget. This board has survived a lot of challenges. And over some of those years, Michigan was in a free fall, in a downturn, and we understood why things were hard. Trustees, that's not the case today. We have experienced a recovery. The school aid fund is up, and you will see on Mr. Dimitri's slides that our legislature has chosen to spend the dollars in places other than supporting our students. I'm proud of what we've achieved with what we have. We have added additional teachers, people that we need in every classroom. We've monitored our class sizes, and trustees, I'm proud this evening that our class sizes have not been as good as they are now in many years. That's not to say there's not a large class here and there, but overall our class sizes are smaller, and we have the data to prove that. I'm proud of the additional programs. I'm proud that a year ago the board understood, and we heard from our community and from our team the concern about social, emotional, and mental health concerns, and we added elementary behavior supports, we added counselors at 9th grade. We've done and taken steps that are needed to support our students despite our fiscal challenges. I just wanted to offer a reminder that when we hear folks in Michigan describe a top 10 in 10 goal, I feel that those words are hollow until we think about funding education with a top 10 approach. That would be the way for us to move forward and do what we need to do for the children of Michigan. I fear for the next generations, because we're fortunate in Ann Arbor. Our community is helping us to balance the equation. although we are diminished, and you will see that in Mr. Dimitri's presentation. But when we look across Michigan, not every community is as fortunate as we are. And I fear that our state will continue in a downward spiral in terms of adding jobs and growth in our economy and innovation because of an underfunding of education. Our state leaders have the ability to fix this problem. As superintendent of the Ann Arbor Public Schools, I will call on them often and loudly and clearly to fix the problem. I want to thank our Ann Arbor Public Schools staff because they continue to deliver on the promise we make to our community and to our children that we will provide a quality educational experience. I'm proud that our team has worked together. We have weathered the storm. It is now time for better news in Michigan and in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, and yet we're left waiting for that tonight. I thank our Board of Education trustees because you too have weathered many fiscal storms. We just can't escape the fact that this flat budget that you're about to see is a result of a failure to act, not an inability to act. And so with that, I'm very pleased this evening to introduce Mr. Dimitri, who will walk you through the budget. I was reminded on our preliminary budget, Mr. Dimitri, today that the trustees did not have a single question. And as I looked around the table at them, I saw how numb they get from being faced with the same story every year, is that we've not provided what is needed for our children. So, Mr. Dimitri, we know you're our Assistant Superintendent of Finance. We don't expect you to work miracles, but we do appreciate all the brilliance that you bring to this work. So with that, we're anxious to see what's ahead of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swift. And first, I would like to thank Ms. Matheson that has been working tirelessly on this budget, and also some of the folks in the business office. So first, what I would like to do is to report on the Revenue Consensus Conference that happened on May 16th. And the number on the left is the amount of money that was actually happening last year. And then this year, these are the new estimates, and they're pretty close. So you can see it's about $13.2 billion that will be available to the state. And then next year, it's about $300 million higher. And then the year after, 2020, again, $300 million higher where what it will be next year. And this, the yellow is the House Fiscal Agency, the green is the Senate Fiscal Agency, and then the blue, which says administration, but it's basically Treasury. So those are estimates that are provided by those three agencies, and they don't vary very much. They're pretty close. So looking at what happened, what do they expect this May that is different from what it was in January? So in these first three are for the general fund, general purpose. So the state has two funds: the general fund, general purpose, and then they have the school aid fund. So the school aid fund, they're projecting an increase available money from $160 million to $180 million. But as you can see, if we look at the previous slide, the three agencies are very close together. So they're all bringing it up to, even though there's a variety of changes, they're pretty much close. They're bringing their numbers all to very close. So this is for 2018, which is the year we're in right now. So there's additional money available. So the year is almost over for school districts. So they have additional money for this year. So looking at, this is for FY19, which is next year. Again, they revised it higher than what they had in January. And it is consistent that there's more money in the general fund. There's also more money in the school aid fund. but there's a bigger variety here from 49 all the way to 165. But again, if we go back, the numbers are pretty close for all three agencies. It's just this is the change from last January to May. So, and if you look at the following year, again, it is the same picture, that there's additional money available. The projections now is there will be more money available in 2020 than what they projected last January. So that's the good news, that there's more money available. Now where it goes, it's a different story. So some of the forecast, they have some risks, and that could affect it. Primarily, all this could affect the numbers negatively. So international uncertainty. So we know there are things going on with China. We know there's things going with Iran. All this uncertainty could cause, with the tariffs and all this, can cause problems with this forecast. Also, the labor markets, there's a shortage of labor, so that could affect our economy. And when there's a shortage, that everything gets more expensive, so there's an inflation that could happen. Also, monetary policy. So we already know that there was a tax cut, and we already know that the labor market is very tight already. So by giving a tax cut, that creates more pressure for inflation. So, and then we also know that interest rates are rising. So with those interest rates rising, people will be able to afford housing as it gets more expensive to buy a house, basically. And then the last one is the corporate income tax. And so all those play a role in how our economy is going to perform, and it could change the numbers significantly. So next, we would like to share some information regarding, I would say, state budget and state politics and what's happening to school funding, and share some information. So right up front, this is when Proposal A passed, and this is where the general fund was contributing to the school aid fund to the tune of approximately $625 million. So then you fast forward to today, and what is proposed for next year, the school aid fund is actually contributing almost $600 million, and then for next year is proposed to be almost $800 million. So this is money that is K-12 money that is being given to colleges and universities, community colleges and universities. And so the variance between, without inflation, it's about $1.4 billion. So, and I'll explain in a little bit why this is happening. So this is a slide that basically shows in our Constitution, it spells out that we can only tax ourselves to approximately 9.49% of personal income. So, and you can see when Proposal A passed, we were here, and then soon thereafter, this is one of the reasons that is that taxes were too high, so they're looking for different formulas. So you can see here, we reached the limit here. We reached the limit last time, I believe, in 2001. Actually, I remember 2001, we got a little refund from the state because of this constitutional item. So today, we're approximately $10 billion below of where the constitutional limit is. So what that means is that the state could tax another $10 billion from where they are today. And those are choices that they have. So we wanted to also look, okay, this is based on personal income, capital personal income. So this goes back to 1929 when we last had, I guess, the first time we had a big crash. So then you can see that personal income has been climbing. Also that the U.S., so we have, back in 2000, or I think there's several times that, like I believe this is 2009, and probably in the 1980s, that we have several recessions in Michigan that have hit us hard, but then we catch up. So we're catching up with the U.S. So personal income has been climbing. It's not like the $10 billion is because personal income has been diving. So then when we look at what's happened to taxes, so then you can see, like in 1972, where we were as a percent of, of the state and local tax percent of personal income. So then you can see that as a percentage, it's been climbing, and it's going down. And this is where we are. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the reason this is happening is it's not because personal income is coming down, it's because the tax effort is down. So if we were the same, the average in the country, if we use the average in the country, we would be collecting another $3 billion in taxes in the state of Michigan. If we go back to where we were in 1972, we will be collecting another $15 billion. So basically the effort has been continually eroded. So most recently, what's in the last 10 years or so, what has transpired? So you can see the business taxes, which this is when they changed the Michigan business tax to the Michigan corporate tax. So the effect was $2 billion, of which approximately $700 million of it was coming into the school aid fund, which no longer comes. So also, I'll show in the taxes what's happened here. Commercial personal property was being taxed locally at 18 mills. So a few years back, not too long ago, they changed it to 6 mills. And you'll see it in a little bit later. So overall, there's $1.6 billion that has been reduced. And the reductions are really in the, what I would call the corporations. And then if you look at some of the increases, real estate transfer taxes. So then when we sell a home and so forth, we have to pay tax. So it's more on the individuals that are getting the increased taxes. Insurance company taxes, well, our insurance rates were up. It's primarily individuals that are paying additional taxes, and it's primarily corporations that are getting the credits, the benefits, the reduced taxes. So this brings us to our foundation. So in 2008, 2009, our foundation was $9,723. Today, we're at $9,290, and it's proposed to go to $9,410. So without inflation, just over this 10-year period in between the beginning and the end, we are not funded where we were funded 10 years ago. If we were just funded where we were, if we didn't get any increase over these 10 years, and we just stayed the same, we would be receiving $5.6 million annually more than next year than we are going to be receiving. This is without inflation.
On these charts, we are not showing the 20J funding that we used to receive that was stopped.
So the 20J funding is included in this number. It was $233. So it is included in the. See, when everybody got cut 470, we were cut the 470. In addition, we were cut the 233 from this number because the 20J was part of our foundation as well.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, we are including. So, but let's look at it with inflation. What is happening to our purchasing power? So if in 2008-9, if you bring it to today's dollars, it's 11,073. So today, it's next year will be 9410. This is what we're projecting. So the difference is over $1,600. So when you do the numbers based on enrollment next year, it is 28 or 29 million, almost 30 million? 29.8, almost $30 million that our purchasing power has been reduced because of the reductions we have taken. And like Dr. Swift said, some school districts get twice the increases that we are. So now I'm going to go into our budget and explain a few things even more. So these are some of the initiatives that we have started in the last few years in Ann Arbor Public Schools. And we're very, very proud of our initiatives and all the programs that we offer to our students and to our families. So I wanted to explain a little bit about our taxes because and this is a nice graph that shows which parts are getting taxed and which millage and so forth. So our operating, which is the 18 mills on 9 primary residence real property. So the commercial personal property, which is basically equipment, are only being taxed at 6 mills. So this used to be probably 3-4 years ago, it was 18. So this is one of the changes that has taken place. Also, our whole harmless is our primary residence, and also this commercial personal property, and then the real property doesn't pay any of it. So, and then a sinking fund is paid by all 3 different types of property, and also the debt is also the 2.45. So then you can see total for each one's, whether it's a primary residence, real non-primary residence, and also commercial properties. So what does that generate? So you can see that our whole harmless, which is on primary residences, generates approximately almost $22 million, and that's approximately 13% of our, if you take our projected enrollment and the foundation that we're projecting, so this is the revenue that we'll be receiving. So from the whole harmless millage, we'll get approximately 13%. From the commercial property, and this is broken, part of it is in here and part of it is in here. Basically, the 6 mills goes to the, it's not part of the whole harmless, it's part of the operating, and then the 4.142 mills is in the whole harmless. So about 2% from the commercial personal property tax, and then from the real non-residential, approximately 37%. So the combination of these is 52% comes locally. So only 48% actually comes from the state. So we are a foundation grant. It's more funded locally than it is by the state, but we don't have a say on what a foundation is and so forth. So the state aid proposal, there are 3 proposals who still don't have a conference that they decided what they're actually going to do, so we're using the governor's proposal. But all 3 proposals, they're not that different from each other. So there are 3 items that actually affect us. In the foundation, we're using $120 per student. Also, this is the computer adapted test section that's been proposed to be eliminated by, I believe, 2 of the 3 proposals. And then all 3 proposals eliminate this one-time funding, this $2.7 million, which is, this doesn't affect the bottom line. It's in the revenues and it's in the expenditures as well. So starting on our revenues assumption. So this is what our revenues are for 17-18, and then we're showing the variances that we incorporated into the budget. So the ones in blue is the changes for 18-19, basically. So this, we have in our budget in 17-18, approximately $3.8 million for cell tower income and easements and a rent settlement. So that was one time that will take place in 17-18. That will not happen in 18-19. Also, with the passing of the 18 mills, already we were losing approximately $1.4 million. So with that tax base going up, there's an additional approximately a little bit over $1 million. So the total restoration back to our local income is almost $2.5 million. So that goes into the budget. Now looking at our state revenues, so we'll see here is the foundation, the $120 per student. Also additional students, we're budgeting for 240 more students at a lower rate. Some of them are from Ann Arbor, some of them are not from Ann Arbor. And then also we're expecting additional reimbursement based on our costs that we have this year. Next year we'll be reimbursed for special education, approximately $1.5 million. The item that we talked about that is getting eliminated, there's 2 items. And then you already know about the tax-based adjustments that we had one-time funding this year. Again, it's not going to take place next year, so we're taking that out. And then this, our number in 17-18 already was reduced by the $1.4 million, and now with our tax base going up, and if you remember, here on our local revenue is going up by $2.4 million. So our state, now that we're getting more money locally, then it benefits the state. So the state doesn't have to send us as much money. So the $1.4 million is already included here. So this is the additional money that we will not be getting from the state. So our federal revenues, we haven't had any changes, so we're keeping it basically the same. But I know that there were proposals that were submitted that would eliminate Medicaid, that would eliminate Title II, but those were rejected. They did not pass. So we haven't received any changes. And then the federal budget is more of an October 1st date. So we'll stay tuned. On incoming transfers and transactions, this is primarily our Act 18 money, and we're expecting that we'll receive an increase again because of our special ed costs going up of approximately $1.1 million, which will bring it almost to $29.5 million. So our total revenues, almost $249 million. So moving on to our expenditures. So this is where we are for 17-18. So we know some of there will be wage increases, health insurance increases, and this is basically on collective bargaining agreements we already have. The retirement rate is increasing, and then we know we have some cost of living allowances in some of our contracts. So we're estimating those approximately $200,000. Also, we talked about this, that the MEPSERS is in the revenues and expenditures that it's being taken out. We're taking out, this happened in 17-18. This is a one-time expenditure for the MEPSERS that we return to employees, the refunds that we receive from MEPSERS that we send to employees and to ex-employees. Also some retirements, and we'll be replacing those, and we expect that there will be savings approximately $2 million. The additional staff to deal with enrollment increases, approximately $1.5 million, and then also materials that we will need for students and so forth. So our expenditures approximately $251 million. So we are expecting that this year that we will end this year, 17-18, with approximately $1.8 million reduction to our fund balance, so will be approximately $18 million. So our revenues are approximately 248.8, and then our expenditures approximately 251.1. Then we expect that our fund balance will be reduced by $2.4 million. So we will be, our projected right now is at $15.6 million. The 2.4 is, you can see that this 1.8 continues, and then we're adding approximately 600,000 to it. So our next steps, we are, the ones that have the check marks, those have already taken place. We are monitoring our enrollment, spring enrollment process, and see how, and also we'll be developing a final amended budget for this year, 17-18. And we continue to do this on a daily basis, and especially seeking opportunities to increase our revenues. But we monitor our expenditures. We are making adjustments internally. We're every day, this is what we do. So we have, by June 30, we need to approve a budget, and I know we have on the 27th, but before then, we will have the public hearing today. It was already advertised on May 17th. The final amendment on June 13th, and then also we have a second briefing and on the 13th and also the 27th. Hopefully we'll get it approved.
Dr. Swift.
Trustees, I very much appreciate this conversation, and I feel even more fired up after living through this with you tonight. I want to take out a billboard or something and just say, here's the truth that you should know. But I do think that you've hit on something that's key and critical for us, because it has been our mode of survival, and that is that student enrollment growth will be more critical than ever this fall. And at this moment in time, we have strong enrollment through InfoSnap. In our young fives and kinders, really strong enrollment. Our high schools are bigger than they've ever been. So I'm very encouraged by it, but I just want to share among us that student enrollment is one of those places where we all join hands on the staff and say, we're going to welcome every child. We're going to make sure we're welcoming and warm and receptive to children. Not because we think of children with a dollar sign, we don't think of them that way, but it is because that is the one thing that helps us to grow our budget. The other path, as you all have discussed beautifully this evening, is not very fruitful at the moment. And then I know we would all say it and the hour is late, but we better everyone be in a voting booth come November, because that is the one only solution to this problem. And I hear Trustee Gaynor that our guys are good guys, and yet we have got to turn this thing around in Michigan. I fear for the future of our state if we don't get a hold of this fundamental issue. And help me to know where to say that and how to say it. I heard the other day I'm on a list down there for something else I said. So I love to be on the list for standing up for children and for standing up for what's right in our beautiful state of Michigan, where children are getting left behind. Thank you.
Okay, Maris, you got us all fired up. Thanks for that. I hate all of the nut slides that you presented tonight, so thanks for that.